Welcome to the SWIKE podcast, the only podcast that shares the stuff you didn't know you needed to know about jobs, careers, and life. The SWIKE podcast, the stuff I wish I knew earlier.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the SWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, the podcast. We're here with another episode of the Youth Corner, and we have Revant here to chat a little bit about time management. So for this term, he's kind of overwhelmed himself with a few things. So why don't you give folks a bit of background in terms of what you've committed to and see if we can help you out from a time management perspective.
I believe this semester is going to be really difficult for me going ahead because I have taken 6 courses, which is probably the full course load at my university, as well as a part-time job as a TA, and my stock trading sessions, daily stocks trading sessions, along with balancing friends, family, and also devoting some time for myself.
Mhm.
So it is kind of difficult because obviously I tend to procrastinate, and since there are 6 courses each sem, it becomes easier for me to divide the courses into like days. I try to aim for one course each day, and I mean the weekends, and one day I give myself as a breather by going out with friends and family. But otherwise it is kind of challenging because nowadays the university has switched to a different thing wherein they want you to participate in many of the courses, so it's kind of uh, compulsory to be there at the live session as well as be attentive.
Mhm.
And along with just like 3-4 months ago, one of my friends forced me to fill out an application to become a TA, because he thought that I scored well and I had good teaching experience to in order to become a TA. And I was not that keen, but he forced me, and he gave me examples of just having good leadership experiences and having different experience, like teaching at a university, assisting a professor, getting to know more people, as well as the pay being really good, attracted me to the job. So after all, I just last month I got an email from the professor saying that you've been selected for this position, and I was really shocked because I knew I had 6 courses on my plate, as well as now I also have a TA position for which I need to give numerous hours into conducting office hours, TA training, as well as correcting students' papers and everything. And apart from all those things, I have, as you know, I trade actively in the stock market. So I mean a daily session of something like 2 hours, 3 hours per day goes into the stock trading for me. And despite everything, I also need to prioritize my family and friends, because this becomes easier because I'm living in Mumbai with them. So just a little chat over the meals and spending some leisure time at night, whenever we all finish our work. And probably late night is the time I give to myself, or probably sleeping is one of the time I devote to myself, which is my leisure time. So this is how I try to avoid stress by like keeping myself busy in most of the things. But I think I've taken a little too much on my plate right now, so I'm really concerned about the time management as of now. But I really hope it all works out.
Sure. So what is your approach going to be to manage time? And I can probably give you a few tips and tricks in order to improve some of your time management, focus management, and energy management some skills. So what do you have planned for the coming term?
So as you know, as I mentioned previously, I try to aim to complete the contents of each course per day. So
Mhm.
whatever they're going to teach in one of the courses, I try to complete. I try to devote one day to that course. And I mean that takes up almost 3, 4, 5 hours of my day. And as a part of my TA job, it gets more busy during the midterms because students have some queries which they approach the TAs for. So I haven't gotten into that yet, but I'm really concerned for that, although. And I think I've cut down on my stock trading quite a bit because I know that I'm taking 6 courses this sem. So I need to compensate somewhere. So I think that has taken a major hit amongst all the aspects, because there's no way I can spend lesser time with my family and friends, because as you know, I'm an international student, and for me living back home here with my family and friends is a major advantage. So I also need to factor that and make the most of it.
Yeah, I think one tip that I have for you and for anybody who's trying to get more control over their time is to create what's called a model week, right? And a model week, even just the exercise of doing it will help you, right? So it's not a matter of using it as your schedule or your calendar. It's figuring out, do I actually have enough time in the week to do all these things that I committed to? So basically thinking about what are your priorities. So we have things like your courses, your TA work, stock trading, friends, family, and your self time. And then figuring out, well, when do I feel most stressed and how do I deal with it? So if you start with a calendar, kind of Sunday to Saturday or Monday to Sunday, depending on how you want to do it, and put the unmovable time. So you have courses, you have lectures, and they're preset. So anything that's there, you put it in there. For those that are working, that's kind of like the 9 to 5 or whenever your core scheduled hours are there, put it in there. So
Mm-hmm.
I would probably put it in day by day, and then include your TA schedule, right? If you have office hours that you've committed to, then put those in, right? And then see how much time that takes up. So a typical work week is 168 hours. A typical week is 168 hours. But I encourage you to actually allocate like 8 hours a day for sleep, right? Most people don't do that, right? So if you were to do that, then it reduces to like 112 or something. Courses, let's say there's like 3 hours every day or something like that. So that's going to be a chunk of time, and then you're going to ideally allocate time for studying and assignments and things like that. And the
Mm-hmm.
general guideline is 1 hour or 1 to 2 hours for every hour of lecture, right? So if you have a course that
Right.
has like 2 hour lecture, then you probably want to allocate 2 hours for work on that, right? Um,
Yeah.
but keep in mind that there's an ebb and flow, a peak and valley, where during midterms you need to commit more. During like kind of early in the term, then there's going to be less, and then after exams as well, right? So start with that, and then figuring out, well, if I want to say, you know what, I want to spend meals with my family, that's half an hour, that's an hour there. I want to spend time like meditating or reading or whatever, right? Stock trading, like you can do that, but obviously you want to fill your time there, right? So as you start filling in your calendar, then you get kind of see, okay, I have a couple of hours here, I have more time than I thought, or I have less time than I thought, right?
Right.
That's what I encourage you to do. And then one thing that I think is another important part is to see if you can manage your time based on energy levels, right? So if you have like a 2 hour course, then don't automatically jump into like assignments and stuff like that, right? Take like a 15-minute break. Walk around the house or the street, or talk to a friend or something, or do something that energizes you. Maybe it's exercise, maybe it's a run, maybe it's whatever it is. But put some time there. And when I first started, I used to actually color code my calendar, right? So it would be green when they were things that energized me, and red when it drained me. So most of the work or school stuff would be red because I didn't really,
Mm-hmm.
it drained me, right? It was fun, it was good, but I learned, but it was draining, right? So the reality of the situation. And I would always make sure that there was no more than a 1 or 2 hour stretch of red. And then I would always insert some green in there, right? Um, and then from there you want to think about like what's holding you back, like what obstacles do you foresee. A lot of folks, they'll get into the mode of procrastination, right, where on my calendar from whatever 3 to 4 I'm supposed to do assignment XYZ or whatever, but I don't, because I'd rather I don't know, turn on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube or Instagram, or play a video game or whatever. So you have to start planning for those. Like, do you have times in your schedule that you feel, yeah, I'm definitely going to struggle when I have to start this sort of thing? Do you have anything that comes to mind?
No, I feel I am I don't like watching TV or movies, so
Okay.
I think I save a lot of time on that. Just one thing which is super erratic, which I feel is in my lifestyle, is for instance, I will go all out one of the days when I am in the mood to study, and I'll probably go very hard, probably 10 hours, 12 hours in the day, and the next day I'll be like, oh my god, I studied too hard yesterday, so I'm just too lazy, and I'll just sit on my couch and not do anything. So I think I mean, I need to have a balance and a steady, like not exert myself too much on one of the days and like probably balance it out in the next day also. But I think doing this sometimes just helps me, because like sometimes I am trying to study hard, super hard, just so that I can have one more day off. So
Mm,
sometimes it works in my favor, right? I mean, I'm studying hard previously, not that I'm procrastinating, that I'll do the work later on. But like sometimes obviously I tend to also do that, but I try to buck up with whatever course material I need to cover and whatever I'm procrastinating with.
sure. As long as you take the approach to what's called front load, which means that if you see something that you need to do in the future, then try to do it sooner than later, right? Because a lot of folks, students, have the reputation of like cramming like the night before, the day before, the week before, even though they knew that this assignment was going to be due like 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, but then they end up waiting, right? So the more that you can say,
Hmm.
you know what, let me be proactive instead of reactive, then I'm fine for folks that kind of work hard and then take some time off, but make sure you're doing it proactively than to catch up, right? If you can do that, I think that would be good. And if it's working for you, then keep doing it. But if it's not and you want to improve, how about trying kind of this more sustained approach? Because oftentimes you'll find it's more of a marathon than sprints, right? So and if you sprint too much, then oftentimes you burn out, right? So and that's something you don't want to do.
Yeah.
So in this what in this term or this upcoming term, what do you think is going to be the most challenging part in terms of balancing your time and your priorities?
The most challenging part, so one of the things I'm really stressed for are my midterms, because during my midterm season, I need to study on my own for the course materials which are going on. Plus, I need to study for the midterm exam for 6 courses, as well as do my part-time job, wherein conducting office hours is one of the crucial things, and correcting the papers and having a timeline to give the papers back to the students. So some of the things, and nowadays, as you know, there are for most of the courses there are 2 midterms. So I think the month of Feb and March are going to be really stressful. And I kind of have one of the ways to get away with it is that uh, probably make really good notes, so that when you're close to your midterm, you can actually just skim through it and revise quickly. Because there are other things, for instance, the TA job, it's unmovable, right? It's a schedule given to us wherein we're getting paid for something, so we can't really make much changes in there, and we can't really give excuses and get away with it. So I think one of the things I really need to start doing is probably cut down on many other aspects such as stock trading, and focus more on giving my studies a priority during those times.
Cool. And what came to mind is so I talked about the concept of the model week, and what I used to do actually when I was teaching, not when I was studying, is I created a model term, right? So essentially, I planned out what was going to happen for the next 4 months, right? So I knew that my course didn't actually have exams, but I had assignments and I had to mark them. So I actually blocked off in my calendar. So let's say I know in February that they're going to submit assignment one, and I need 3 days to mark it, right? So I block off like 3 days after the submission date, so that I can block it. And it might not be 3 complete days, it might be like 6 half days or like whatever, but it's time that's blocked off in my calendar, so I can't schedule like appointments or meetings or something during that time. And then I would do that for each of the assignments throughout, so that I could plan. And given that you probably have the syllabus, you almost could probably track like, what do I want to study, right? Like, because you'll have whatever, uh, 20 chapters in a book, which means you have 5 chapters each month, and then that's basically one and a half, 1.25 chapters every week. So you need to make sure you do that. So you could do something as proactive as that. I would encourage you to do that. Yeah, and if you can allocate time to, okay, this is my time, my TA time, right? And then any extra time, this is my assignment time and extra time. And you'll find that by even planning that out and being diligent about it, it might seem like a lot of effort, but if you think about it, it's probably only going to take you about half an hour, to plan all that out. if you say like, okay, these are my courses and this is my TH time slots, like that's pretty much fixed and set, right? You can't really change it too much. Okay, let me put in some time for studying. Okay, how much do I want to put? You move that around. How about the TA marks and whatever, right? And then when you have extra time, then you fill it in with like the fun stuff that kind of keeps you energized, stock trading and stuff like that, and then family and friends time, right? So you want to make sure that you do that. So yeah, I think taking some of those tricks and if you kind of make a commitment to do that model week, do that model term for yourself, I think you'll be well on your way to having a great and successful term.
Wow, I think I'm gonna start with the model week as soon as we get off the call, because I really need something that can help me manage my time really well. So I'm definitely going to try. But I also wanted to ask you, like, how do you allocate your time, and what are your major priorities right now?
Yeah, so I have a my own model week, right, which I change on almost a weekly basis, right? So the way that I
Mhm.
started is things like sleep, right? So I actually have time on my calendar for sleep, right? Because I want to make
Mhm.
sure that I don't do that. I put time for my personal time, so I have a morning routine and evening routine for myself that I put stuff in there, right? And it changes and moves depending on what I want to do. I actually allocate time to spend with my family. So when is dinner time? When is lunch time? I actually make sure that that is in there. And then throughout the week or the calendar, I make sure that I allocate big chunks. So I will apply every other week some time to like just brainstorm and create new initiatives and ideas. I have time to do like social media and marketing, right? I have time to do things like that, like podcast recording. I have time for appointments, right? And basically, if somebody has a coaching call that they want with me, then I just subtract that or remove that from any of the coaching time that I have in there. So if I have extra, then I can fill it in. But if for any given week I've maxed it out, I have to make a conscious decision on whether or not I want to take another coaching call or say, you know what, I'm not available until next week, next month, or whenever I'm available, right? Yeah, and then
Mhm.
it's really figuring out, okay, what do I want to balance, right? So I do a lot of things. I'm for this year, I have like the next edition of the book is planned, a UX user experience redesign of the app, the Career Buddy app. I have the Youth Success Academy. I'm going to kind of streamline it and create multiple academies. So it's going to be like the Student Success Academy, the Recent Grad Success Academy, and the Young Professionals Academy. So those are three things. I also run like the confidence clubs, like kind of bi-weekly for different sessions, one-on-one appointments, a whole bunch of workshops, and yeah, so I got a lot going on too. But if you think about it, if you just see me listing it out, once I have it there, I will put it on my calendar, right? And unfortunately or fortunately, I'm kind of stuck on my calendar. I look every week, every day, and say, okay, what do I have to do today, right? And whenever I have like kind of like work time or like creative time or whatever, then I start to plan out, okay, what do I actually want to think during that time, right? And then I make sure to at the end of the week have some reflection time to say, okay, did I do what I say that I wanted to do, right? Because that's the most important part. Because if you don't measure that, then it gets challenged, right? And I try to do my best. Where like, okay, when I'm in an activity and I'm almost done, but the time slot is already finished. Well, do I keep it going, knowing that I'll eat into some other time, or do I stop and then just move it to the next period? So that's kind of a game time decision. But I cut myself some slack, right? So if I miss something, that's okay. If it wasn't a true priority in terms of like someone was waiting for me, then I kind of let it go. But if it's something like, well, someone's going to be on a call in half an hour, okay, I got to make sure stuff gets done. So yeah, I miss timelines once in a while too, and I get stressed just like anybody else. But I do my best, and it's been an evolution to kind of get on that. So a lot of the stuff that I recommend is stuff that I do, right? So I recommend folks to do it because it's worked for me, and if folks have other time management techniques, I'm always experimenting for myself too. So I'm willing to learn as well.
Well, seems like even you have a lot on your plate, but the only difference between you and me could be that you have a way to, you're more experienced in the way of tackling it. And I think after this, when I start using the model week, hopefully I'm also going to be probably on a better track. than what I'm right now.
Yeah. And I think it's taking that perspective that you actually have a choice, right? You can actually choose to manage your time, right? A lot of people don't even bother, right? They just do whatever comes to them. Whereas to say, you know what, if I could, how would I want to spend my time? And that act alone can be quite helpful. But yeah, I think this was a great discussion, and hopefully in a future episode you'll come back and say, well, how did you do? Did it work? and what was been helpful or not? But are there any other kind of tips or tricks or things that you'd want to suggest for folks to do to help with time management?
I think those were all the techniques which I don't specifically follow one of the time management techniques, but all I try to do is um, probably allocate my priorities well, and not like dedicate certain number of hours to something, but however long it takes, I'm fine with that. But I try to not affect the quality of it. For instance, I don't try to devote like 30 minutes to my family. I mean, if you're having a discussion, if you're having a good time, then I don't mind extending it by 1 hour or 2 hours, right? Because it just doesn't it doesn't, like, you can't sorry, I blanked out. Yeah. So if I'm giving like some time to my family, for instance 1 hour or 2 hours, then I'm not gonna be like, stop, I need to go and
Yep.
follow my calendar. It's just something. So I tend to have a buffer for that in in that aspect, and that's why probably my time schedule doesn't get messed up that much. Because
Mhm.
one thing I would really highly recommend is that there might be so many small things in a day wherein that which is not allocated for. So I feel having a buffer time for that really plays really will like relieve your pressure.
It's a great point. Yeah, having buffer time in there is very important. And one additional thing that I would encourage folks to have is non-negotiable time, which is basically
Yeah.
time for yourself, right? Personal development, professional development, self-improvement, all those things that you've committed yourself to learning or doing or whatever. That's time for yourself. And the key quality of non-negotiable time is that it's important to you, but it doesn't have a due date, right? If it has a due date, then it goes somewhere else and gets scheduled. But if it doesn't have a due date and you could always push it off, well, that's when you do this stuff, right? So if you can allocate half an hour a day, it can be so meaningful, because half an hour a day after a year, that's like 180 hours, if not more. And a work month is about 160 hours. So that's basically like having an extra month in the year. So 13 instead of 12. Most people would love to have that extra productivity in there. So, and that's just with
Yeah.
half an hour a day. So I'd encourage folks
Yeah.
to do that, and as Revant said, add some buffer time. And instead of working on a calendar, what some people do is have a to-do list, right? So they basically say that, well, I'm not going to schedule it, but I know I have to get these 8 things done today, right? So I'm not going to say it
Hmm.
has to go from 9 to 10 or whatever, but I make sure that when I have time, like when I don't have a unmovable commitment, okay, do number 1 on the list and keep doing it until it's done. Number 2, number 3, and then if a unmovable commitment is there, then deal with it appropriately. But yeah, I think that's some great and useful guidance, and hopefully your term goes well, and it's going to be stress-free and manage. And yeah, is there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, no, I think that's it.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Revant, and hopefully we'll get you in another episode. And thanks for everyone for joining us on the SWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier podcast. Thanks for joining us on the SWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, the podcast. If you like the podcast, please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you found this podcast. And if you can give us a review, that would be very appreciated. Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn at Luki Danu, LUKIDANU, and the same on most social media platforms. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Bye.